Bye-bye Meghan Markle. With love, Netflix. Looks like the Duchess of Sussex's torturously dull lifestyle dross has been switched off for...
A breaking development is unfolding at remarkable speed, with each new detail only deepening the mystery. An unexpected sighting at LAX has sparked intense speculation, placing Meghan at the center of a rapidly escalating storm. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Prince Harry is reportedly facing a shocking financial blow that raises serious questions about trust, control, and timing. These events do not appear to be isolated, and their combined implications could be explosive. With whispers of a silent departure and a vanishing fortune, early signs from a private Los Angeles terminal suggest that something significant is unfolding behind the scenes. There was no familiar convoy, no glossy arrival staged for waiting cameras, and no sense of tight control. Instead, airport staff quietly observed a lone figure step out of an ordinary vehicle and move swiftly through the terminal. Oversized sunglasses concealed most of her face. A scarf was wrapped high despite the mild California air, and a baseball cap sat low. It was discreet, but not discreet enough. Those accustomed to spotting patterns immediately sensed this was no ordinary departure. What followed sent shockwaves far beyond LAX. The destination linked to that quiet exit was Dubai, a city synonymous with luxury, privacy, and legal complexity. According to internal sources, the ticket was one-way, a detail that carries serious weight when it involves someone whose life has long played out in public. This was not travel arranged overnight. It suggested careful planning, precise timing, and urgency. Meanwhile, far from the runway inside the Montecito mansion, another reality was unfolding. Insiders say Prince Harry was grappling with a discovery that turned confusion into panic, as accounts once used to fund security, staff salaries, legal advisors, and public relations efforts were suddenly drained. With a troubling figure emerging at the center of it all, the amount was $12 million, not an estimate, not a range, but a precise figure that immediately raised alarms among those familiar with the couple's recent financial activity. Such specificity points to something deliberate. Financial analysts monitoring major settlements and contracts connected to the Sussexes note that a sum of this size is far more consistent with a single significant transfer than with routine expenses. When operating funds vanish, everything grinds to a halt. Security arrangements collapse, staff and advisors are left unpaid, and the carefully managed public image begins to crack. Influence fades quickly when the money sustaining it disappears. By the time whispers of the missing funds reached legal circles, the story had already moved beyond celebrity drama. Unauthorized transfers through American banks would trigger federal scrutiny, and once borders are crossed, the matter becomes international. Investigations, alerts, and legal requests would follow rapidly, especially if assets surfaced in regions less cooperative with Western courts. What makes the situation especially unsettling is not just the money or the sudden flight, but what it reveals about trust. For years, the pair presented themselves as once seen as inseparable and united in both purpose and action. That carefully maintained image now appears to be cracking behind closed doors. A silent departure, a drained account, and a trail leading far beyond California point to a private breakdown with very public consequences. This is no longer mere online speculation, but a story of power, secrecy, and a partnership under strain, unfolding across continents and drawing the attention of institutions that do not deal in rumors. As she traveled miles above the ground on a long-haul flight bound for Dubai, chaos was reportedly unfolding quietly below. 15 hours in the air is more than travel time. It is a window in which decisions solidify and consequences gain momentum. Reports placing Meghan on that flight shifted the balance instantly, leaving Prince Harry grounded and exposed to questions that refused to disappear. Moving a staggering sum like $12 million is not an impulsive act. It implies planning, coordination, and guidance from those fluent in finance and law. Over the past year, mounting signs of strain within the Sussex circle, departing senior aides, disappearing advisors, and constantly changing PR teams now appear less like routine instability and more like a deliberate fog concealing deeper preparations. Dubai adds yet another layer of intrigue, operating under financial and privacy laws that move far more slowly than courts in California or London, making assets harder to freeze and legal action more complex. This has fueled speculation that the destination was chosen with precision rather than convenience. Complicating matters further are the British royal family's diplomatic ties to the region, raising questions about whether this situation could evolve beyond family drama into a sensitive international issue. For Prince Harry, the emotional toll may ultimately outweigh the financial loss, especially as long-standing warnings from within the royal circle, particularly from Prince William, now echo with renewed weight. Those warnings about the partnership now echo louder than ever. The image of a prince possibly blindsided, while millions quietly changed hands, is not just embarrassing, it is damaging on a historic scale. Yet another angle is gaining attention. In high-wealth marriages, early movement of assets is often part of discreet exit strategies. Lawyers call it protection, while critics see it as preemptive betrayal. If Meghan believed the marriage was nearing its end and felt entitled to a share of funds tied to joint ventures like media deals, she may have viewed the transfer as securing her future before legal barriers could rise. $12 million is enough to rebuild, assemble professional teams, and endure years of courtroom battles. Still, timing is everything. Witnesses at Los Angeles International Airport described visible tension, phones checked repeatedly, sharp words exchanged, impatience impossible to miss. This was not the calm confidence of a carefully planned escape, but something closer to urgency, even fear, as though every minute before takeoff mattered. Whether the move was strategy, self-preservation, or something more troubling remains unresolved. What is clear is that once the plane lifted off, the story changed permanently, leaving trust fractured, secrets deepening, and a marriage suspended between silence and fallout, with questions lingering about what truly triggered the flight, the fortune, and the sudden quiet that followed. Something feels sharply out of place, and the unease intensifies with every passing hour. When reports emerged of a vast sum of money vanishing alongside a sudden journey, the situation shifted from idle gossip to a potential crisis. In moments like this, timing is critical. Once an alarm is raised, authorities have only a narrow window to act, and once a plane leaves American airspace, the rules begin to change. Touching down in Dubai means entering an entirely different legal landscape, one that complicates recovery, accountability, and control. What stands out most is not the rumor itself, but the response or the absence of one. The Sussex operation is typically swift and polished when stories break, issuing carefully worded denials or briefing friendly outlets within minutes. This time, there has been nothing. Offices linked to Montecito, London, and Los Angeles reportedly appear unreachable. That silence does not signal comm strategy. It suggests scrambling behind closed doors, where containment may be the only remaining option, as the reported figure of roughly $12 million continues to raise serious questions. The situation raises deeply uncomfortable questions. With the Spotify deal already gone, Netflix payments released in stages, and major publishing income largely accounted for, the pool of readily available cash was never limitless. Life in California is relentlessly expensive, with property costs, taxes, maintenance, and security running into millions each year. If that liquid money is no longer accessible, the financial ground beneath Harry becomes dangerously unstable. Without it, bills accumulate quickly and independence erodes faster than pride. Isolation only deepens the strain. Cut off from family, weighed down by obligations, and now possibly separated from financial reserves, Harry faces a reality he once tried to escape. Any appeal to King Charles would not come without conditions. Help, if offered, would likely require surrender, returning to Britain alone, abandoning his current path, and accepting enforced silence. The personal stakes extend further to the children. Witnesses at the airport reportedly saw Meghan travelling alone, with Archie and Lilibet nowhere in sight, leaving their whereabouts uncertain. Custody disputes become vastly more complicated when multiple borders are involved, creating a legal maze spanning California, the UK, and the Middle East, where time, money, and influence can tip the balance. With sufficient resources, such battles can drag on for years, turning children from innocence into leverage in high-stakes negotiations. Meanwhile, online observers track a specific Emirates flight that departed Los Angeles around the time of the sighting, with aviation watchers monitoring every mile, waiting for where and when it finally touches down. Attention will soon shift again toward authorities, photographers, or perhaps a quiet disappearance into a luxury enclave on the Palm Jumeirah. The destination may soon be confirmed, but the consequences are only beginning to unfold. What was once a private relationship now threatens to erupt into a global spectacle, with repercussions far beyond a single marriage. This is not a quiet separation happening behind closed doors. It is a rupture playing out in public view. A partnership once presented as unbreakable now appears fragile, cracking under intense pressure. After stepping away from royal duties in 2020, Prince Harry built his new life around the idea of standing united against a hostile world, an image carefully sold in California, reinforced in the 2021 Oprah interview, and repackaged through Netflix. That narrative is now under serious strain. In recent months, subtle signs of distance became impossible to ignore: strained public appearances, Harry's stiffness at events, and a noticeably lighter demeanor during solo trips hinted at a growing imbalance. The sense of unity that once defined the Sussex brand has faded, replaced by silence and awkward separation. When reports of missing funds surfaced, the story shifted sharply from emotional distance to something far colder. The alleged financial move suggests intention, planning, and a decisive break meant to leave little behind. Legal experts point to a troubling grey area. Access to shared accounts may not itself be criminal, but draining them entirely signals bad faith that divorce courts rarely overlook. Proving fraud across borders would be difficult, and borders now matter more than ever. Dubai is not a random choice. It is a city built on reinvention, privacy, and influence, where wealth reshapes narratives and distance shields from relentless scrutiny. Relocating there sends a message of finality, placing both money and control beyond easy reach. By contrast, Harry appears unprepared for such precision, having long admitted to trusting easily and avoiding legal fine print. That trust may now carry a heavy cost, with emergency legal action his only option, as jurisdictional barriers slow every move. Meanwhile, the carefully marketed image of a modern humanitarian power couple is unraveling in Montecito, observed closely by supporters, critics, and institutions alike. What remains is not a fairy tale ending, but a public reckoning where the brand has fractured, trust has eroded, and the fallout is only just beginning. As the aircraft was still in the process of landing, statements were being prepared, legal teams mobilized, and every digital trace scrutinized. The House of Sussex was not fading quietly, it was fracturing in full view of the world. And as the carefully built image unraveled before everyone's eyes, attention turned to the hidden truths behind the wave of staff departures that had long raised questions. For months, the narrative around Archewell focused on employees leaving in quick succession, framed as yet another story of a demanding duchess and a chaotic workplace. Behind closed doors, however, a far colder and more calculated picture appears to have been taking shape. What looked like disorder may have been control. One by one, familiar faces vanished, replaced by a tight inner circle of advisors whose loyalty pointed in only one direction. These were not Hollywood creatives, but figures linked to Delaware offshore structures and legal firms known for quietly and efficiently moving money. While public attention drifted overseas, the real activity remained close to home. In late 2024, as court hearings drew Harry back to London and headlines focused on old grievances, the financial engine in Montecito continued running without him. Records now suggest that meetings once dismissed as routine business discussions were anything but ordinary. A financial advisor with international ties, including connections to the Middle East, appeared repeatedly at the residence over a 6-week period when Harry was notably absent. In hindsight, those visits read less like crisis management for failed ventures and more like strategic planning for an exit. The money itself did not disappear overnight. Approximately $12 million is believed to have been broken into smaller amounts and filtered through consulting fees, vendor payments, and hollow investments. By early 2025, the trail had already crossed multiple borders, a method designed to avoid alarms and delay discovery. Anyone relying on others to manage their finances would only realize something was wrong when access abruptly stopped, by which point the accounts would already be empty. Across the Atlantic, the response was swift and silent. Before dawn in London, phones reportedly rang inside palace walls as senior figures were alerted to a situation rapidly escalating beyond private concern. Palace aides were briefed, and the mood reportedly shifted from shock to grim confirmation. The royal household, long attuned to patterns others might miss, had noted financial shifts, yet stepping in was never an option. A private dispute could not be transformed into a public rescue, especially when royal titles risked being dragged into a celebrity-style fallout. By the time rumors of Dubai began circulating, palace staff were already preparing distance, drafting statements focused on separation rather than defense. Any removal from official platforms would signal a final, clean, and deliberate break. Outside royal protection, there is no safety net. Back in California, the scene appeared painfully ordinary. Local authorities were reportedly seen near the gates in Santa Barbara, not for spectacle, but for paperwork. A missing funds report transformed speculation into record. Suddenly, a prince explaining vanished money to a sheriff's deputy is stripped of ceremony and status, jarring in its mundanity. Timing mattered legal deadlines, expiring contract clauses, and slipping public metrics all pointed to a closing window. When value drops, assets move. In this case, the asset was not just money, it was access, relevance, and momentum. Once the engine stalled, the decision became clear. Cash out, move on, and leave the rest behind. Yet could walking away truly leave everything behind? Or was a storm quietly brewing below, ready to challenge every choice made above? At 40,000 feet, luxury masks urgency. An Emirates jet glides toward Dubai, offering private suites and quiet comfort, while a storm gathers around the life left behind. This journey is about more than distance. It is about control, timing, and a carefully orchestrated transfer of power. By the time the aircraft departed LAX, the pieces were already moving, and California suddenly felt very far away. Dubai, often described as a haven, offers safety only through influence. Over the past year, whispers of carefully cultivated connections with wealthy regional figures have grown louder, suggesting preparation rather than mere coincidence. This relocation reads less like a retreat and more like a calculated pivot, potentially funded by money once considered reserved for family security and the children's future. What heightens the unease is the silence surrounding the children themselves remain at the heart of the unfolding crisis. Reports suggested Meghan traveled alone, raising difficult questions about custody and care. If the children stayed in California, Harry retained physical custody, but financial instability could make that responsibility overwhelming. If they were elsewhere, the stakes became far more serious. Insiders suggest nannies may be caring for them while plans are quietly finalized, with custody filings potentially following once the family is established in the UAE, a legal landscape far less forgiving, especially for a father whose past admissions are already on public record. Meanwhile, the media tone has shifted. Outlets that once sympathized are hesitating. The familiar victim narrative no longer fits when someone appears to be fleeing with both cash and leverage. In the UK, tabloids are reviving old labels, portraying her as calculating and him as the naive prince who gave too much and questioned too little, a narrative that could define him unless he responds decisively. Yet response requires strength, and recent appearances suggest Harry is drained. Insiders describe shock giving way to something heavier, darker, a moment that could either crush him completely or force a reckoning. Protecting himself may now be his only path. Time is the enemy. Once money enters the UAE's complex financial networks, tracing it becomes a long and uncertain battle. When the plane touched down at DXB, the final signal arrived. A private security convoy waited on the tarmac. Swift and precise, Meghan bypassed public terminals, disappeared into an armored vehicle, and vanished into the desert night. The efficiency of the operation confirmed one thing unmistakably. This plan was in motion long before the flight took off. The board was set, the move executed, and back in California, the weight of checkmate was only just beginning to sink in. Unexpected consequences loomed, as loyalty became costly and the quiet weight of abandonment began reshaping California's high-stakes world. Reports from early 2025 suggested around £12 million had vanished from shared accounts, leaving more than just financial damage. Legal analysts familiar with cross-border disputes warned that the UAE's financial system forms an almost impenetrable maze for asset recovery, especially when funds are routed through private firms or digital exchanges. Time, something Harry no longer had, was the price of pursuing it. In Montecito, California, lights burned late, but only just. Cash flow was tight, and a lifestyle once sustained by global deals was no longer viable. Amid this, a quiet call was reportedly made to London, not to an estranged brother, but to a father now wearing the crown. Sources say the conversation was stripped of pride. The palace's response was controlled. Help could be offered, but not without surrender. Conditions were severe. A return to Britain alone, a life tucked away in a grace and favour cottage, possibly near Balmoral, far from cameras and commentary, with silence enforced by law, no memoirs, interviews, or public reckoning. Formal separation would be managed by royal lawyers, focused solely on protecting the children. Safety, yes, but at the cost of independence. attention has quietly shifted east. Dubai now offers what Hollywood no longer could: status without the relentless glare of scrutiny. In the Gulf, a title still opens doors, granting access to luxury ventures, lifestyle branding, and discreet investment circles far from tabloid cameras. Palm Jumeirah, with its glittering skyline and private enclaves, has become the epicenter of reinvention, where prestige often outweighs past headlines. With seed money allegedly secured, the stage is set for a calculated comeback in a tax-friendly haven that rewards discretion. Amid it all, the children remain the immutable center of the storm. Custody questions split between the US and UAE threaten to become a drawn-out stalemate, dictated more by borders than emotion. Legal experts caution that once these boundaries harden, leverage shifts almost overnight, leaving few options for compromise. Back in Britain, disbelief has given way to grim, reluctant confirmation. Commentators speak of ignored warnings, bridges burned, and squandered opportunities. Isolation is total, the mansion echoing with irreversible decisions. This story does not end with spectacle. It dissipates through bank transfers, legal filings, and meticulously staged photographs. One figure recedes into managed obscurity, while another emerges composed, unbothered, ready to craft a narrative of escape, influence, and self-made power. The crown endures, but the house built around it has quietly crumbled, leaving only whispers of what once was .so, what truly pushed Meghan to flee with a one-way ticket as millions vanished from Harry's accounts. The answers remain hidden, but the fallout is unmistakable.